Gregg Rosenthal is here, host of the new NFL Daily. He's wearing a jacket. I'm wearing a suit. I have TV in about 3 hours, so I can't wear my patented light jacket. Although it's also like 95 degrees in the Northeast. What's going on, Greg?
Wearing just a t-shirt, which I had until I saw you all dressed up on This Is Football. It's like showing up to training camp without a helmet. Like I gotta look nice for Kevin.
Can't do it. You can't do it. Do you like training camp? Or do you like the thought of training camp?
It's like preseason. You're really excited for the beginning of it, and then you get sick of it after preseason. One game, training camp a couple of weeks. I do like that there's just news, though. We've been going over the same takes, the same ideas for 3 or 4 months. Like I've recapped, at least like we're working with new information. So that's exciting.
New information and also just like real information where it's like, oh, like on June 5th, there'll be some hype for some wide receiver and then it'll come out. He just like hasn't taken a rep in 3 weeks in training camp. And it's, oh, we don't have to do this. Like you don't have to, you actually have, I think training camp to me has become underrated because you have concrete information with the reps I mean, first of all, you start with guaranteed money. Like we kind of know who's going to be on every roster to begin with. There's only a couple of spots per team open up, but like, I just feel like you can figure out what a team is if you really pay attention to the beat writers this time of year and the press conferences.
This is the best time of year to read all the beat writers. I'm with you. That's what I love too. Cause we have more time to do that, to like go through it all. I never trust Twitter analysis of like who's good, who's not. But when they're doing the depth charts, they're doing the injuries, you can pick what coaches are saying. What I do like it. It's been long enough. I'm ready to go.
There's always like, what was the guy? Oh, there was like Trey Benson hype a month ago. I don't know where it came from. But I'm just on Twitter one day and I'm like, why is just like 50 people talking about Trey Benson's ADP? I don't know where this stuff starts. And then like
I didn't know that, Kevin. You told me we have a segment coming up. I don't want to spoil it. But on this note card, the name Trey Benson.
Wow.
Written.
Okay. All right.
If I had known there was a day like that.
Don't show you. There was a day a month ago where everyone talked about Trey Benson. All right. Here's what we're doing. Today. We're doing the 3 headlines we want to see in training camp the next month. Like the headline, I just want to see blank because it means blank. And this isn't about who's going to be good or bad. It's just things we want to see from us football observers that we want to see. And because you already showed, I didn't look at your list. I want to be surprised. The viewer wants to be surprised. We'll blur it out for the YouTube version and the social clip. You have the floor, Gregg Rosenthal. What's number 1?
Okay. I'm definitely not leading with Trey Benson. Let's go with, this would actually be the headline. And it's just Jacoby Brissett, I got to hand it to the kid. That's what I want. I can see it happening. That's what I want.
He doesn't look like a rookie, Brissett said.
Right.
That's what
exactly.
That's a quote you want to see.
Because there's this thing that happened with Drake Maye throughout this whole process that I didn't totally understand. I was in the camp of like, wow, when I look at prospects, he is as exciting a prospect as anyone other than Caleb Williams, who happens to be in this class, and maybe Trevor Lawrence or maybe Joe Burrow, depending on what you're into. For me, he was as exciting as anyone other than Caleb Williams. And I just didn't understand why Jaden Daniels went in front of him. I think he's going to be ready faster. I think he's going to be a red zone beast. And I get the idea that it might take him a little while to get up to speed. So that is what I want to see, because I'm just being selfish here. I'm a recovering Patriots fan. I tried to drop him once Brady was gone. Yeah, just because I thought like we've reached the peak. What's the point anymore? But just as a football fan, like that's what I want to see. I love Jacoby Brissett, but I want to see that week 1.
Completely agree. I'm actually going to have a rookie quarterback take here in a minute. Drake Maye, and I have a serious question about this. Is Bill Belichick's draft night criticism responsible for some of maybe the wet blanket coverage over the past couple of months? I don't know the answer. Like, who has more credibility aside from Tom Brady in the Patriots fan base and Bill Belichick? Belichick's talking about his footwork. I mean, that was something that had come out, but like a lot of these guys have stuff to clean up. I was just reading a couple of things from Shane Waldron about Caleb Williams. And they were talking about the footwork, the mechanics, just taking a snap, understanding how to kind of operate in a crowded backfield. All these guys have things to clean up. I felt like Belichick was being a little bit unfair, and I'm wondering if that weighs in the fan base at all.
Did you watch Belichick that night? Like, did you just have that screen on? I don't know what your work
So
responsibilities are.
I was in Bristol where I am now, and I was watching the main feed and kind of taking notes. So I watched only kind of the social clips the day after.
I do feel like the social clips were a little misleading, if only because Belichick was negative about everyone. like, like you can just imagine him in draft rooms just killing everyone except for like really good run stopping linebackers that have like a nose for the ball. Like he loved those guys, but especially the top 10 picks. He was pretty negative about everyone in some way. He was realistic. I didn't think it was extra for Drake Maye, but I think he was echoing a lot of what you heard from people in the NFL.
Yes.
That was consensus that Jaden Daniels was a spot above him and maybe even like a tier above him. And certainly the Commanders felt that way. Like, I just didn't get that. And I think when he gets out there and when he is playing with professionals, because anytime he was playing in a college game where his players weren't completely overwhelmed by the other players, he cooked. He was incredible. Yeah. Like that's all he needed was them to be even. His 2022 tape was so much more consistent because he had one receiver, Josh Downs. And I know the Patriots like aren't great compared to other skill position players, but they're close enough. It's the NFL where it's like they're going to be 10% worse than their opposition. And so I'm excited. I think he's just going to do so much next level stuff. Maybe they don't want to put him out there week one, but he is a guy in the preseason and in camp I'll be watching closely and looking forward to.
Okay. So first of all, I just want to say Bill Belichick is going to be one of the GOAT broadcasters ever. Like that, yes. He's going to be so good and honest. And the other thing about Belichick, he can just do something no one else can do, which is if he doesn't want to answer a question, he can just start telling a story about Paul Brown, which he's done before, and we're just going to be into it. We're going to be into it. You know, like everybody.
It's always Paul Brown or Jim Brown. It's like one of the
Jim
Browns.
Brown or Lawrence Taylor.
Yes.
Like if he doesn't have anything, like I always joke, like, do you do like local radio ever?
Yeah, sure. Sometimes.
Like you call in. Yeah.
Sure.
So I do less and less. I do most of the people I know. Okay. But a lot of times you'll just be on and it'll be like December 4th and you'll just be like, hey, a lot of talk about this Browns O-line and how many combinations they're using. What's your take on it? And you're just like, I don't know. Like, we can't say that. And so you just have to get as broad as possible and be like, one thing I know is that Bill Callahan's going to have his guys ready to go. You know, you just get broad, right? Like, that's what I do when I don't have anything on a subject. Bill Belichick has more resources in his brain than any human being who's ever been in front of a microphone. He does not have to do, well, I know. And by the way, it's not just me who does it. Every pundit will just go as broad as possible and be like, well, one thing I know is that blank coach who I randomly know is going to get these guys ready to go. Belichick doesn't have to do that. He has so much knowledge. He has a library built by his father of football books. He cannot fail at this job.
I'm looking forward to it too. And I think that night especially, it was as if he was the coach and he just doesn't want to give any rookies any respect. Because in his mind, every rookie has so much ground to cover. And he's like, I don't want these guys getting confident, even though he's not coaching them. He's just like, I don't want to give them
like that as a coach. As a coach, you'd always be like, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. All right. So this dovetails into my first one. I don't ever, this is a negative headline. I don't ever want to see, actually, I still want to see it once. I want to see the name Sam Darnold in one headline. And the headline is Darnold not getting any first team reps. Darnold says he has accepted his role as backup quarterback. I'm here to let the kid have a good start to his career, Darnold said. That's what I want. Because a couple things about J.J. McCarthy. Number one, his flaw is he hasn't thrown a lot. I think he has something like 1,400 less attempts in his career than Bo Nix. And obviously that's a little bit harsh because Bo Nix was in college forever. But Jaden Daniels, didn't Jaden Daniels throw a touchdown to Brandon Ayuk to beat?
Yes. I think Antonio Pierce was the coach.
Justin Herbert. He beat Justin Herbert. So that's all you need to know about that career. But he hasn't played a lot of football. The way football is set up now, backups don't get any reps. This is 1994 anymore. You cannot develop backup quarterback in a training camp. And so where's he going to get the reps from? He needs to play immediately. And so the cheat code here is that J.J. McCarthy was the best player last year at throwing over the middle of the field in college football. think it was like 78% adjusted completion percentage over the middle of the field. Guess who's the third best behind only Shanahan and McDaniel play caller over the middle of the field last year? Kevin O'Connell. There's going to be a cheat code here. There's going to be layups here. You're going to have easy answers for JJ McCarthy. If he can't play immediately, I actually have concerns. Like you're going to be able to make life easy for him. And what I mean by that is like, I'm not saying he's a bust if he can't play immediately. I'm saying like you should be able to get to a point where he can contribute on week one. He should be able to play. And this Sam Darnold thing, I'm sorry, the structural problem here is not about JJ McCarthy. It's that Sam Darnold is not good. And just because you were failed doesn't make you a good quarterback. Like just because my whole thing, geography is destiny with football, with quarterbacks in particular, that's true, but you can also be bad. And Sam Darnold has not shown himself to be capable of a 9 or 10 game run where he's going to be able to keep JJ McCarthy on the bench. I want to see JJ McCarthy immediately.
Yeah, he had it going a little in Carolina for like 6 games, but he was just playing as like a quality backup that didn't make a lot of mistakes. Yeah. And then he had one of the worst games in human history that I'm convinced only I watched, which is Week 18 Panthers Saints with no stakes whatsoever. And I think he was like 2 for 15 with 4 interceptions. It was mind-boggling. And then you're like, oh yeah, that's Sam Darnold. I'm with you. I want to see this headline because number one, I've seen enough Sam Darnold. Like, let's just move to our future, which is JJ McCarthy, and let's get into it. Let's see what this is going to be. And then number two, because I root against the Sam Darnold hive that is really taken over media. It's your friend, our friend, Mina. It's Orlovsky. No, see, I didn't know Benson was a thing, so he's coming later. But it's Orlovsky. It's Daniel Jeremiah. It's everyone. And it's the same thing in the NFL because there's nothing more valuable to anyone that gets into the draft, especially personnel people, than a report you wrote on completely different information 7 years ago against collegiate athletes. Oh, forget about all this NFL tape. Let's stick with how he looked, against Oregon's defense in 2017. Everyone's still holding on to that piece of paper. And it's like, that's not that guy. If he was a 3rd or 4th round pick, there's no chance he'd be getting this.
Here's the other problem. If you get rid of Kirk Cousins to raise the ceiling of the franchise. And the only way to raise the ceiling is to immediately usher in the JJ McCarthy era. Sam Darnold is worse than Kirk Cousins. So are you going to waste a season? Are we tanking? Are you trying to tank? Are you trying to get, I don't even know, the kid from Tennessee, Pierce? Is that who you're trying to, I don't know. Like, I just don't understand why you'd say we're getting rid of Kirk Cousins because we don't want our ceiling to be 11, 12, 13, whatever it is.
They think they can fix him. Everyone thinks they can fix him. They think they can fix him. We did that segment on NFL Daily. Just these quarterback coaches, they think they're going to be the one to get him and fix him.
It's like, who was it? It was Scott Kazmir got traded for, was it Victor Zambrano? Do you remember this? Do you know what I'm talking about? It was like one of the worst.
I do remember Scott Kazmir. It is right about the moment where I quit fantasy baseball was when he was peaking.
He got traded. He's a great prospect. Ended up having a great career. He got traded for just a really mediocre starter because there was a pitching coach who was like, "Oh no! This mediocre starter, I saw something on film. I can fix him." And so it's Rick Peterson. All right, we got Flynn is texting me. Rick Peterson says Victor Zambrano could be fixed in 10 minutes.
They want the credit. I mean, people are very into credit. You've noticed that, I'm sure, as you get older. Like, people are more into credit than results on some level. And Kevin O'Connell, to his credit, looked pretty good with the quarterbacks. He's made Kirk Cousins his best.
But also, it's not if you are a quarterback whisperer, you don't need a 1st round quarterback. You just need Sam Darnold off the scrap heap. I'm just saying.
Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words. Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the types of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire.
All right, number 2.
Okay, my second one, and it's talking about who left Minnesota, and that's Kirk Cousins. And the headline would just be Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins look normal. And because I think we've
look sort normal, of just skipped
normal. Yeah, they just look normal.
Act normal.
No, that's not going to happen. I mean, Cousins is pretty normal. but just on the field, they look normal because everyone's just skipped past this whole thing where we have a guy in Rodgers who's turning 41 during the season, who's coming off a torn Achilles, an injury we literally have no track record with at quarterback, especially for a player this old. I think, was it Warren Moon? I forget who it was, but it was like, it's just a different time in football history. And then Kirk Cousins, who might be the streakiest quarterback of the last 10, 12 years. It's like people think of him as this steady guy and because he always ends up in the same place. But no, for about 5 games every season, he looks like he could be an MVP candidate. And then for another 5 games, he looks like trash. And then it's back and forth. And he happened to get hurt at that moment where he looked incredible, maybe as good as he's ever looked. So that's the last thing we remember. And he's coming off an injury that we just haven't seen. So I know they're not going to play in the preseason, but I think you can still learn some things about how they're moving in training camp. And that's going to be something because I want these teams to be watchable and entertaining. And Rodgers is coming off his worst season of his NFL career by far in 2022. So just like be normal, because if they end up struggling through this, it's going to be a pretty big wet blanket on both those teams.
Gun to your head, who wins more games, Falcons or Jets?
Jets. I just think they're better. I haven't bought this whole like, oh yeah, the Falcons are a ready-made Super Bowl team for Kirk Cousins. What are you watching? Like they were lucky to win 8 games last year with one of the maybe the easiest schedule in the league. Their defensive talent is like bottom 5. Like maybe it works out on offense. They have some good players around them, but I just think like Cousins, you're hoping that he's better than league average to me coming off a torn Achilles. Whereas the Jets, yeah, you're hoping Rodgers stays healthy, but that's an awesome defense and pretty good talent around him.
I have a take I'm workshopping.
What's your answer, by the way? I need it.
Oh, Jets.
Okay, cool.
The Jets have this is a crazy thing to say. We did how many teams win the Super Bowl with Steven Ruiz and Seth Galina 2 weeks ago. There's a real path for the Jets to like make the Final Four. Like
absolutely. Rodgers is one of my highest levels of concern. Honestly, that's why I brought this up. Like that he's just not Aaron Rodgers. If he's close to Aaron Rodgers, then I'm with you. They can absolutely win the Super Bowl. I agree.
What if, all right, so let's say Aaron Rodgers is the 16th best quarterback this year.
Yeah.
Do they win the division?
Probably not, but they'd have a chance.
It's close. They'd probably make the playoffs.
Not. Yeah.
But it also, to your point, it's what kind of 16th best quarterback? Is it even Steven, 240 yards, 1 touchdown, an interception every other week? Or is it 310 yards 1 week, 4 interceptions the next week? Because I thought the problem in Green Bay, Greg, was that in 2022, was that Matt LaFleur's confidence was such that he was calling plays for the MVP level version of Rodgers. And that had not been reckoned with, that he, whether it was a thumb or just he lost something, like they were throwing bombs on 4th and 2 because they thought they still had MVP Rodgers. You saw that against they lost the bad loss to the Giants early in the season, the bad loss to the Commanders early in the season, and they just had these games where it was like the problem was actually if they called plays as if they were the 16th best quarterback, things actually would have gone better. They called plays that they had the best quarterback. That to me was really interesting. So I'm intrigued to see it, and I'm just glad, Greg, that a stud like Nate Hackett is in charge of play calling.
Dude, this level take, I had not heard that, is why ESPN can't find a show, not to put you on. You're on everything now, Kevin Clark.
I am on everything.
You're on the horn.
I haven't been on.
I'm with
I
you,
haven't
by
been
the
on
way,
baseball tonight. I haven't been on baseball tonight yet. With my Victor Zimmerman take.
I'm with you. That would be amazing. I'd love to see you on Olympics. I'd love to see you on everything. But it has been very cool. The Clark glow up. I'm with you because Rodgers has to change his style. That's my thing this year. He got hurt in part because he holds the ball. That's always been his bugaboo because he's so good at just holding the ball forever and making a play. And coming off an Achilles, that's not going to be as easy to do.
All right. I can go one of 2 ways. I'm actually going to stick with the injured quarterback genre. Saw a headline today that I wanted to see, but this is not the headline I want to say. This is not my take. The headline I saw was that Zach Taylor says that Joe Burrow is ready to go, which is great news. he also said he's going to play in preseason. And that gets to what I'm talking about here. I want to see Joe Burrow. I want to see the headline, Joe Burrow to play significant preseason game snaps. Now, I saw a stat I couldn't believe. He's played three preseason snaps in his life. Joe Burrow.
Well, he's never healthy in September.
He's
I mean,
never
in August, so
healthy.
he hasn't had the
Yes.
options. Yeah.
Yes. So this is a guy, and this always goes back to this one conversation I had with him 3 years ago after his ACL, where remember he was throwing all those practice interceptions and he was really struggling. And I said to him, I was like, what's going on here, man? And he was like, my vision is such that, and that vision is his most important trait, obviously, just be a bit free. He loves getting guys out into routes, throwing 5 wide, throwing to these, throwing into double coverage because he sees the way a shoulder was turned, all this stuff, right? His vision is such that when he first gets out there, he just kind of sees a wall of people. That's what he said. You just kind of see a wall of people. I don't think, and I'm putting words in his mouth, I don't think Joe Burrow cold when he comes off, on August 1, comes onto the field, comes off an injury, hasn't seen a lot of football. I don't think his vision is tremendously different from yours and I's. Like he says, it takes him a while to get, this is back to his words, to get the rhythm, to get the vision, to get the feel of, hey, I mean, he's almost like a
I mean, he
point
could
guard.
see over the top of the offensive lineman, whereas I would just be looking at like a guy's ass. So that part would be different.
Is that
5'5", if you round up 5'6",
yeah?
my vision it would be problematic. Sometimes my son like turns his Madden players into 1-inch players. Have you ever seen that? You can do that. Like that's what it would be like. Sorry to cut you off. What was a good point?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't remember that you were a short king, and so I did not account for that. So I take back that you and Joe Burrow are the same type of player. I apologize for that. So we'll get you stilts, and then you can have the same vision as Joe Burrow. No, like he is almost like a basketball point guard, where he needs to know where they have such good chemistry. T. Higgins, such good chemistry. The running backs, the tight ends, especially, as the cover 2 stuff comes in and they're having more guys do the dirty work over the middle that aren't chasing Higgins. You're just seeing more, and the new guys, some of the draft picks, some of the younger guys, you're just seeing a lot of basketball on grass. And so what I want from Joe Burrow, it really alarmed me, Greg, when he had that quote that was like, I just need to be ready for September. Because we've already seen what that looks like. We've already seen like him coming into the season cold, and then he's crappy for all of September. And we do the debate on like October 5th about whether or not he's good. Like last year, we had to do the should they shut him down debate. And the answer is they probably should have. He probably shouldn't have even played last year, or he should have played the second half of the season. And so I want to see him get significant preseason reps. I want to see him be fully healthy. And I understand there's a contradiction here with as far as risking injury by playing him in the preseason, but I think getting him sharp is worth that minuscule risk. I mean, nobody even hits in the preseason anymore. They barely play flag football. So that's my Burrow take.
Yeah, people need to calm down about getting all worked up about playing in the preseason. Like, it's like, oh my word, like he could get hurt playing football. And it's like, yes, I get that game doesn't count. And like, no one complains when it's 41-7 and everyone's still in the game and it doesn't matter.
Burrow got hurt running around last year in practice.
Right. There's to me, that, like, of course it's terrible and tragic, like when a player gets hurt, but they can get hurt at any time. I'm of the Belichick school. Not that you need to play all the starters 2 quarters, but if you think it's going to help a player's development to play a little bit in the preseason, they did it for decades. There weren't any more injuries back then than now. I like that Caleb Williams is supposed to play. I love this because it just means that Joe Burrow's going to be healthy throughout the preseason and training camp. I just remember last year going into the season, how excited he was and the beat reporters were. It's just like, finally, Joe Burrow is going to get the build up to the season that he's never had. Because you're right. He's a timing, rhythm, feel, accuracy type of quarterback, and that takes reps. And then, of course, he got hurt before it even started.
I thought they were going to win the Super Bowl last year because of all the talent they had coming back, because Higgins, like at some point, Lou Anarumo is going to go somewhere and be a head coach. At some point, T. Higgins is going to play somewhere else. So I thought they're going to win the Super Bowl last year. And if he's healthy, that creates a tier 1 contender. If he's not, Jake Browning again. Jake Browning, Brian Callahan was on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he texted Jake Browning texted Callahan after he got a job and said, "Do people really think I was that bad? That you got a head coaching job out of this?" Which is a very funny thing to say. Anyway, they're a very funny team. They're a great cast of characters over there in Cincinnati that might win the Super Bowl.
It's like not untrue. It's not untrue. I can just kind of imagine that, like Amy Adams Strunk watching that Saturday game where he was lighting.
Holy crap! Like, this guy sucks. All right, what do you got? What do you got, Trey Benson?
Now I'm embarrassed because, yeah, it's about Trey Benson. It could have been Marshawn Lloyd. It's kind of about rookie running backs in general.
Ooh, okay, let's go. Let's broaden it.
You know, our friend Chris Wessling, one of his truisms, which I totally believed, was watching rookie running backs in the preseason. It's the one position where you don't need to be a scout. Like, you can see it. You can very often see it right away. And it's also the position that it doesn't matter that they don't get drafted till the third round. They could still be more valuable than like a top 20 wide receiver in your fantasy league. They could step in right away. I picked Trey Benson in particular, and I guess this is why he got the fantasy love that I wasn't aware of. But I think Marshawn Lloyd would fit here too, because they're going to be a good running game. They were 7th in the league in EPA per play running last year. They were number 1 in explosive run rate with James Conner and Michael Carter. Like, I watched enough. You're more of a college guy than me, but I watched enough Trey Benson tape. I kind of couldn't believe he went to the third round. He can get skinny and make people miss in tight areas, and then he can go for 40. I love him, like, in the red zone. Like, I love him in fantasy. So yeah, that's the headline I want. Just Trey Benson absolutely destroying like the Chargers' third stringers in the second preseason week, and everyone just going nuts for him.
I think that Florida State's group of transfers last year, they didn't all transfer last year, but they had a group of guys, and I don't think it's going to last as a strategy because I think everybody plays the portal now. Like, Alabama plays the portal now as much as Florida State did. But Mike Norvell, including at Memphis, was really good at working transfers, getting them in, and letting them cook. And what he did in his first 3 years, now a lot of it was because the cupboard was bare because Willie Taggart was a bad coach. But you had a lot of guys, Trey Benson being one, Jordan Travis being one, Keon Coleman being one, Jerry Jones being one. I mean, I could go on and on and on. But like, it's going to end up probably being Jared Verse, Braden Fisk. All of those guys were transfers. And I kind of feel like, again, it's not going to last because people have caught up to it. But I kind of feel like in 10 years, we're going to look back on this. The way Norvell played the portal over a 3-year period, I think it was very, very special. Trey Benson being part of that. He started at Oregon. They understood a lot, and they still have some of these guys. Fentrell Cypress, who came over from Virginia. I think the cupboard's probably going to be a little bare this year just because people are understanding, like, even like in the basketball, like John Calipari's understanding, like, you don't get the freshman McDonald's guys anymore. You get the 24-year-old who has, like, you know, who has a mortgage and a Social Security payment, you know, like you get those guys and you win with them. Like, if you're getting a safety, you don't want the safety who's a 5-star 18-year-old. You want the guy who's about to live in assisted living. That was a special group. And I think that Trey Benson was a huge part of it. And good job by you, Mike Norvell, on assembling that roster. Anyway, all right. I'm workshopping a take here that I've thought about a lot. Feel free to throw it right back in my face. Xavier Worthy is the most important player in football this year. I'm going to tell you why. The non-health division, right? Like, if
Mahomes, you know, this is why you lift all that weight.
If Mahomes blows his ACL, don't worry about it. But if Xavier Worthy is who he can be, in theory, who he tested out to be, the fastest player in the history of the combine, a guy who moves well, he's got a small frame. Apparently, he deals poorly with physical play. Fine. I think he can find ways to not have him face a lot of physical play. But if he's who he can be, Greg, the season is over. The season is over. Because guess what? They had the worst team last year of the Mahomes-Reed era. They had bartenders playing wide receiver, okay? And not only did they drag them to a Super Bowl, but it was the hardest path by DVOA in the history of the playoffs for a Super Bowl winner. So if Xavier Worthy is an immediate impact speed guy who changes the way you can defend Patrick Mahomes. What just happened to the league?
It's a problem. It's a fun take. It's a great take. I mean, I throw Marquise Brown in there. Not that he's going to be as good as Xavier Worthy. Well, you're making a face.
I'm making a face because that's such a worse take.
No, well,
I've seen Marquise Brown play.
Okay, I have too, and here's what I would say: that I would take Marquise Brown over any wide receiver the Chiefs had last year, over rookie Rashee Rice. I would say.
I agree.
On balance,
who the hell knows what's going on?
Okay,
with Rashee Rice?
So you're adding two guys. So it's not just Worthy; it's two speed guys that can get it done. And Brown supposedly early days of training camp is very active. I was big on Worthy in the draft, and it wasn't just the numbers. I thought he's a real receiver. Like, he is a better Tank Dell. He was gonna go, I think, in the first round if he ran a 4.32 anyways, or early second, because he was their one. He was on a team with A.D. Mitchell where he's running the routes. Like, he's not just a speed dude. He just has to stay healthy because they're going to ask a lot from him. But if Tank Dell at that size can come out and do it, to me, he's a better version of it. And he has Patrick Mahomes. And yeah, that highlight of Mahomes throwing left 50 yards down the field, which because of the time of the calendar it happened, like, will be one of the most famous training camp plays of the year, because ESPN's just going to run it and NFL Network for like 3 days straight. Like, yeah, that should scare absolutely everyone. He is the most important player in the NFL.
Thank you. Yes. Bang. Kadarius Toney working at running back is the second most important player. Running back Kadarius Toney. I thought Kadarius Toney was a stud because he had this long touchdown against Miami, but it turned out Manny Diaz was just a moron.
I thought he was a stud because he had that game against the Cowboys as a rookie when he was with the Giants that you were just like, wow, he moves different than everyone. There's only so many guys that move different. And that's popped up here and there. But he is, the second they start using you in the other position group on day one of training camp, that means you're on the bubble with like a little work to make the team.
Especially on a roster with the most important player in football, Xavier Worthy. NFL Daily, what do you got going on this week, bud?
Oh, we got Colleen Wolfe, Steve Weiss in the building on Monday. It's a rotating group. When you're going daily, a lot is happening. But training camp was one of the times of year I'm most excited to do it daily, just because there's just little things coming out all the time that you want to stay on top of.
Love that. All right. See you, buddy.
See you, Kevin.